One sentence summary. A thief who looks like a hero cop steals his identity and daughter at the request of the cop's friends. Could you beat the villain? Shiva is the main character. Note that the film is called Rowdy Rathore, so Shiva is not the title character. It's stupid, I hate it. Anyway, he lies, cheats and steals throughout the film, and I shit you not, at one point he steals all the clothes off of some children. It's mental. And then there's a gangster who runs this village, and all the civilians are afraid of him, and he's the villain in the film. But like, if you took out Shiva and the gangster with an airstrike, the world would be a better place. If you took out Shiva with an airstrike, the world would be a better place. Anyway, could I beat the villain? Yeah, he's got a big tough brother, but you know, I'd just push him off a cliff or something. Like, he's not Superman. More on Superman later. How would you improve this film? So I watched the trailer before I saw the film. I was like, oh man, that looks alright. Looks like it's the story of a hero cop. He's got to save his daughter or something. A bit Taken-ish. It's not that at all. So it's actually about a guy who is scum, Shiva, who, a hero cop who he looks like dies, and Shiva, a criminal, takes his place and becomes a hero. So that's number one. Number two, the premise of the film, so Shiva, the scumbag, has to take on the hero cop's identity, doesn't happen till about an hour into the film. Number three, the only difference between Shiva and Vikram, Singh Rathore, as in the title character, they look the same. It's a prince and the pauper kind of situation. I'll accept that. But the only difference between them, because they dress the same as well, is Rathore has a slightly larger moustache. Like, it's not even like Rathore kicks all ass and Shiva can't fight. He has to sneak past. He also kicks a lot of ass. So they're exactly the same basically. It's stupid. The tone of this film varies wildly between scenes and even sometimes in the same scene. So you've got the comedy brother-in-law character who's in a lot of these films, and I don't know if it was just because I was in a bad mood, but it pissed me off, this one where he's doing the oh, silly stuff, and then it does the noise. There's that was a joke, you have to laugh at that because we did a joke sound effects. I hated it. Anyway, so there's a bit towards the end where I think it's the comedy brother-in-law character, he's all doing oh no, silly stuff, and then the gangster man is all look, kill that kid. So the comedy brother-in-law reaches for the kid's face, and then a knife flies into his mouth and kills him. The opening of the film is very confusing. So the gangsters, they're all upset because they go to the graveyard. One of the gangsters sees someone off screen, and he's like, oh man, goes and tells the boss, and the gangsters all go to the graveyard, and they see a picture of Rathore on a grave, and they're all like, oh, he's alive, how can this be? And then it swaps to Shiva, who is dressed like a cop, but is part of a con. And as I said from the trailer, I didn't know what the fuck was going on, because I thought, well, is this the same guy? Because why are they calling him a different name? Is it like his twin brother, something along those lines? And then an hour later, it's explained actually it's just a coincidence they look the same. Shiva steals the uniform of a cop for that con at the beginning, and they are not the same size. And it seems like the people in India don't have doors, because people are running into houses and taking people hostage at knife point. That's why you've got a door, to stop stuff like that happening. I'm not a fan of the whole instant replay thing that Shiva uses in this film. So he sees a sexy lady walking past and he wants to rewind it, so he just goes and then he watches her walk past again. Didn't like that. But if you're going to have it in the film, fine. But they just forget about it towards the end of the film, so he stops doing it. And you know what? That could have been a really useful skill, because it's not just a silly joke he's playing. It actually seems to affect the world. A lady cop is about to arrest Shiva and his mate, and he sprays the equivalent of Lynx on him, and then the woman fancies him, and it leads into a musical number. Strange. Speaking of musical numbers, Shiva, the guy who plays him, cannot dance. And I've got two examples from the film. There's no way my descriptions can do any justice, so just watch these. Look at his face. Oh God, look at this. Fucking hell. This is fucking Jesus Christ. It's a coincidence that I'm wearing this right now, but in the film, in two of the dance numbers, there are two different guys, I believe, wearing Superman shirts, weirdly. And Shiva is referred to as a Man of Steel twice at the end of the film. He's not a hero, he's a monster. There was a problem, I think, with the translations on this film, because like, a lot of the times when the characters will say something and it doesn't match up with the words that are on the screen. So there was one instance where he goes blah 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 blah, black and white film, and then the subtitles say trailer, like film trailer, because it's like, well, this is just the trailer for the film of me whooping your ass or something along those lines. So I can only assume that that kind of problem with the words and the written words comes up a couple of times, because there's a song where the line is, she's so pretty, look at her gait, as in look at how she walks, I assume. And then it's her first year, she's new here. Do you mean she's a 1-year-old? Or do you mean she's new to the area? So Shiva, Scum, meets a nice lady who, I say nice lady, she jumps on like a Capri Sun or something and causes a guy to have a heart attack, does not apologise. Anyway, meets a lady and he's like, if you think about me in the next 24 hours, it means you're in love with me. Number one, no it doesn't. Number two, he goes and stalks that woman for the next day and like cons her into thinking that she's thinking about him. Awful. Shiva, he's a thief, he's a scumbag. He also has a terrible temper. So in one of the dance numbers, there's like some women playing flutes or horns or something in his face, and he just slaps one of them. I was like, he seems good. And then in that same dance number, some like, I think it's like some piece of food just levitates and explodes. Didn't understand why. Shiva hates kids. That's something you know about him. Or does he hate kids because of that bit where he stole all of those kids' clothes? So he might be a bit Jimmy Savile and just telling people he hates kids. Anyway, it doesn't matter. He is sent to the supermarket to go and get some nappies. And his friend is like, oh man, you're whipped, blah, blah, blah. You've met this girl once and now you're running errands for her. Fair enough. And then they see, or no, a guy sees Shiva and thinks he is Rathore, the hero cop. So he's like, brother. And Shiva, like, not even shouting the guy's actual name, which probably leads to the confusion. And Shiva is all like, get the fuck away from me, you weird man. Rightly so. And then, you know, it's sort of a funny scene, and then because like there's a thing that the comedy mate has robbed the guy shouting brother or whatever, so they're like, oh no, we got to get away. And then just out of nowhere, the guy shouting brother falls down some stairs, smacks his head, blood everywhere, then he gets hit by a car. This is what I'm saying, the tone of this film shifts dramatically. The love interest lady, she has a nice hip. Alright, cool. Why is Shiva so obsessed with that hip? I guess it would be a bit graphic if like he was just grabbing her ass or whatever, but still. And also, he can't be putting his hands on that woman without her prior consent. That's just how the modern world works. Speaking of the modern world, this film, I think it was from like 2012. Why is that little girl playing with a tape player, right? They definitely had CDs back then. Shiva admits to the love interest that he's a scumbag. They're talking, and the music flares and the camera zooms out, so it looks like it's going to do a time jump, but then it just goes back to that exact same conversation where they're still talking. I was all, what was with the dramatic pull out and the music and all that? Anyway, Shiva's like, look, because I love you, I am going to stop stealing and thieving and being a scumbag tomorrow. And then he leaves the wedding that they're at and then goes back to robbing stuff. So like, even change your ways or don't change your ways. They've stolen a big box that they think is full of treasure, and it turns out there's a child inside. Yeah, so they've accidentally kidnapped a kid, but it's all part of a plan. Rathore's friends, who are cops, have seen Shiva, and he looks like Rathore. So their plan is to force him to adopt the little girl. All right, fine, they're insane. Anyway, so this cop guy, he knows that the kid isn't actually Shiva's, but Shiva's all like, oh yeah, I haven't kidnapped this child, if that's what you're accusing me of. This is my daughter. I look after her, good times. And the cop's pointing a gun in his face. And he was like, look, what, if I find out you aren't looking after this little girl, I'm going to cap your ass. And the weird thing about that is, he's very concerned about the child's well-being. But Shiva has got the child in his arms, and the guy's pointing a gun there. This is not the first time or the last time the child is in danger in this film. Rathore, more in his flashback later, but he's basically got a brain trauma because he was shot in the head, as you might expect. But for some reason, this trauma can be eased just by like getting water on him, like he's Aquaman or something. And it's not even like he has to drink water. He just gets like some rain on him, and suddenly his brain trauma is okay. Doesn't make any sense. But the doctor man who's treating him, he's all like, the nerves in your brain could have burst, and I don't think that's a real thing. The love interest needs to calm down, so she discovers that Shiva has got this secret child, and she's like, oh man, you cheated on me. He didn't cheat on you and an 8-year-old child appeared. If anything, he lied to you. Like, the logical thing is he lied to you because he already had a kid. Shiva is walking down the street with the little girl who he's now, forced to adopt. And the gangsters who are after Shiva, who haven't been mentioned in like 45 minutes, they're after Rathore. They see Shiva and they're like, oh look, that's Rathore, the guy we're looking for, and they go and attack him. And the cop, who's pointing a gun in her face or whatever, he just starts shooting these gangsters. He's like, run for your life! And Shiva's all like, okay. And so Shiva, the gangsters are here. Shiva runs over here, and there's another gangster waiting around the corner over here for some reason. And Shiva's running past this corner. The gangster swings a piece of wood, hits Shiva in the face, hits the little girl in the back of the head. Shiva falls on the floor in a completely different location. And then later in the film, a doctor's like, it's okay, the little girl just fainted because of the shock. No, she didn't. She's got a brain injury because she got a plank of wood to the back of the head. I rewound it and watched it happen. Anyway, the point is, it looks like Shiva is in a lot of trouble. And then Rathore appears out of nowhere, does a superhero landing off of the top of a building site, and just murders people with this like spinning wheel of death. And it's graphic. It's a slow motion fight in the rain. It should have been good, but I hate this film so much it just upset me. So there's a flashback to explain Rathore's backstory, like an hour into the film, so we now know what the fuck is going on. Anyways, Rathore, his wife is dead. Very sad. To the little girl's mum. So she's an orphan when Rathore dies, even though he is not dead when the cop friends give the little girl to Shiva. Doesn't matter. Rathore turns up at this town. It's run by the gangster man, so he's there to clean it up. And his cop buddy brings his kids to meet Rathore, and Rathore immediately knows that his wife isn't dead. She's been sold into sex slavery or kidnapped or something. So he goes and sorts it out because he's a guy like that. And he busts into the gangster compound and he throws among other things, throws a bucket. We never see where that lands, so I presume he missed. Anyway, he goes in there, grabs the gangster's son, and somehow has time, with all these other gangsters running around, to tie the guy to the front of his Jeep, get in the Jeep, drive towards some gates, and in that time, some gangsters have closed the gates, then they see him tie the guy up, drive towards it, and then they open them again. It was weird. I didn't like it. There's a corrupt minister who's basically helping the gangster guy, and he's on the phone, and he says, disconnect the call before he hangs up. Again, either that is some sort of issue with the translation and the subtitles, or these guys just don't know how phones work. The gangster's son, our rapist, is the comic relief for a couple of scenes. I shit you not. And there's a party held in his honour because he didn't go to jail for rape. Dark. And the whole town they've all got to go because they're all afraid of the gangster. Alright. And there's some dancers doing some stuff. And in a lot of these films, the actors are not the ones who are singing, it's dubbed over. That's fair enough. But it's very obvious in this one because there's 3 women dancing and singing, but the voice for the song jumps between the 3 actresses. The rapist's son is playing this fun game at his party where if he catches you, he gets to undress you. What? Anyway, and there's a bunch of cops there, including Rathore, and they can't do nothing about it because the ministers are like, hey, play nice. So the son says he's already like undressed this one cop and humiliated him in front of everyone, and he's like, and now the one with the moustache. Number 1, there are 2 dudes with moustaches standing right next to each other. Number 2, Rathore doesn't have to take this shit, right? Just because the minister says like, oh, unload your pistol and don't kill this kid. And when he does unload his pistol, by the way, he takes out bullets of different colours. The rapist's son starts chasing Rathore around. He's like, oh, I'm going to undress you. Again, Rathore, well within his rights to just say, don't fucking touch me, or just snap the kid's neck. Doesn't matter, the kid accidentally kills himself because he starts wearing a belt as a scarf, falls off a ledge, strangles himself, and then the town just go mental cheering. Bearing in mind, the only reason they're there is at this party is because they're afraid of the dad, but they all start cheering. The weird thing about that is, there's a lot of weird stuff in that one scene, but Rathore does not give the belt of the undressed officer back to that guy. He just walks off with it. Strange. Rathore is stabbed in the back by a big CGI party float, and then the very next shot is of his back. No blood, no torn shirt, nothing like that. I also call bullshit on that big thug reloading a flintlock pistol so fast. Doesn't make any sense. There's a Final Destination-y kind of bit where the flintlock pistol fires and the bullet hits a stone that is under the wheel of a car. Apparently this car doesn't have brakes because the stone moves and the car starts rolling towards a kid who's trapped in some debris. Rathore decides he's going to stop the car with brute strength instead of just free the kid. He never frees the kid must free himself. It was rubbish. We see flashbacks of something that happened half an hour ago in the film as well. That's annoying. Shiva seems to think Rathore was camp because that's definitely the way he plays him when he returns to the gangster's lair. Oh yeah, you can see wires on Shiva as he's doing a Cossack dance. I've already mentioned how terrible his dancing was, but if you can't do the dance move, don't cheat. It looks obvious. There's some really crappy CGI explosions that Shiva, dressed as Rathore, is standing too close to. Doesn't make any sense. He'd definitely be dead. And the police beat some unarmed men with sticks whilst those men are in a cage. That's not justice. That's torture. That's fear. Right, so the gangster guy, he's upset that he has been beaten with sticks, as you can imagine. So he's like, abduct everybody. And then they just kidnap Shiva's love interest, who came back, and she was gone for a while, and the little girl. I was going to leave it alone because they go there, they escape, and then there are some gangsters waiting for them as they run down here. I was going to let that slide because the film was rubbish. Why bother? But there are guys hiding under some leaves to spring out and attack them. It's too far. If they were just hanging out, I'd allow that. But how long have they been hiding in that pile of leaves for? Why were they doing it? The big thug who killed Rathore, he's choking Shiva, Darth Vader style, and he's holding him over a cliff. And then Shiva kicks the guy backwards, and instead of falling down off the cliff, he somehow falls forwards back onto the land. Hated it. Why is Shiva playing with his moustache like Rathore did? They're not the same person. And like, Shiva barely even met Rathore, and when he did meet him, Rathore wasn't like, moustache. Hanging the gangster's body up for display like they did to Rathore doesn't make you the hero. It makes you just as bad as them. Why do the local goons, one of whom who pissed himself, want Shiva to beat them so badly? It doesn't make any sense. Anyway, rating out of 5 beers. I hated this film. It was propaganda, but it was also terrible. Don't ever watch it. It stressed me out. I haven't made this video for 2 weeks because every time I start doing it, I just start getting stressed again. Anyway, goodbye.